Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. We're playing Pokemon Sword. I mean, there's probably like spoilers here, I guess, if you're not far in the game. But it's a Pokemon game, so whatever. Yeah, I guess let's talk about Pokemon. First of all, I picked a female character because it's like, generally for a single player game, if I have the choice, I lean towards playing a female character. It's just more pleasant to look at. But then I realized, it's like a 11-year-old girl or something. It's like, I gotta pick out outfits and stuff, and I don't know. I think I ended up looking pretty slick, and not in like a weird sexual way, sort of. It's okay, I guess. So yeah, Pokemon. This is the first Pokemon game in like the main series that I've purchased and really played since Pokemon Yellow. Back in like 2000 or 1999. Yeah, Yellow. I was playing in 1999 because I remember New Year's Eve 1999, the whole Y2K nonsense going on, and I was just sitting there with my Pokemon, my Game Boy Color. It's like, I don't care if the lights go out, I got my Game Boy right here, baby. I got Pokemon Yellow. Wouldn't have affected me at all. Thankfully the lights did not go out. Anyways, so yeah, I had Pokemon Blue way back when on the OG Game Boy, which was pretty awesome. I remember seeing the commercials for Pokemon and just being like, what the fuck? Why are all these weird little monsters? It was like a commercial where they were all getting like crammed into a bus for some reason. I don't even know. Definitely stuck in my mind though. And so I got Pokemon Blue because blue is the better color. That was a great game at the time. I beat that. And then Pokemon Yellow came out, which was a special version after the show came out, in which your starting Pokemon was Pikachu. Everyone loved Pikachu then after the show came out. And I was big in the show as well. Like every morning before school, I had to watch an episode of Pokemon. A bunch of other friends at school also did the same thing. We talked about Pokemon. We had the Pokemon cards, and there was a lot of trading going on. I even went to like a tournament that I think I bombed at. But yeah, when I was like 12 or so, Pokemon was life. And then Pokemon Gold and Silver came out, and I was like, There's all these new Pokemon that I have to learn about, and it's like, I did the Pokemon thing with the video game. There's nothing really different here as far as mechanics. It's sort of a children's RPG, and I felt, at the time, like 14 or so, I had outgrown it. I'd gone on to bigger and better games, RPGs and stuff. So I think I had gotten Gold, and I had played it for like a couple hours, and that was pretty much it. It wasn't the end of my time with Pokemon. I remember enjoying Pokemon Stadium on the N64 because that had all like the 151, and it was cool. It was different. It was a different game. Obviously, it was not as involved as like a full-blown RPG, but it was fun. I spent some time with that. Pokemon Snap, of course, everyone played that. That was a really cool concept. Again, just completely different. And Hey You Pikachu, I played that as well, which was a really cool concept. It just didn't fucking work at all, so it was not that great, but it was a cool concept. Talking to a video game, it's insane. And then that was pretty much it for me in Pokemon. The only other thing I played was Fire Red, which was sort of an updated version of Pokemon Red. It was like a redone version of it for the Game Boy Advance. And I never beat that or anything. I never got that far in it. But I picked it up here and there just for nostalgia's sake. And again, I just felt like, okay, there's way better RPGs out there that I could be spending my time with. And then the only other thing with Pokemon was Pokemon Go, which was, again, a whole different concept and sort of banking on nostalgia, and that was pretty cool for a month. And that's it. I've never bought any of the other main Pokemon games. I never played any of them until this, Pokemon Sword and Shield, which I bought because I figured it's the first main series game on a console. That's pretty exciting. And I was like, you know, they've been making these games for decades now. They've got to have all sorts of new improvements and complexities and all sorts of cool features and all sorts of stuff compared to when I was playing Pokemon Yellow. Turns out that's not the case. It's basically, this is Pokemon Blue. This is Pokemon Blue, but fancier. It's like the Fancy Feast version of Pokemon Blue, which does not necessarily mean it's good. I mean, it's like I said, it's a children's RPG. This is a game intended for children. I say this as I get my ass handed because I'm not paying attention. But it's still the same basic concept. You run around, you collect new Pokemon, you level up your Pokemon, you have 4 moves, and it's pretty much 1v1. Now, they do have some differences. Sometimes you do like 1 versus 2 or 2 versus 2, which is slightly more interesting, maybe. You have the basic elemental sort of rock, paper, scissors system, although they've added a lot, which really threw me off. Like, there's a fairy type and like dark and steel. Fucking steel. Yeah, but most of it is still, I mean, it's still a rock, paper, scissors system. They have the Dynamax Max Raid thing where you can make your Pokemon really big and they're more powerful, but it's still like, they're still just Pokemon. They have 4 moves. That's that. And you're still just going around, you're collecting badges, and it's really almost like just a reboot. No, it's almost like a remake for like a new generation. I just feel like for people, well, for one, for people like me who played Pokemon like Red and Blue back in the day and maybe fell off the series, and then they got back into it with like Pokemon Go, and they're like, oh yeah, Pokemon, that's cool. Oh, there's a new console game coming out. Yeah, that could be cool. Let's play that. You're not gonna be like blown away. by what's happening here. This is the exact same game you played back in 1998. It just looks a little better. And so, you know, I was playing through. I've got a few badges. Got like 4 badges now. And it's just like, I could be playing so much more interesting RPGs. Even like on the Super Nintendo, there's way more interesting. I could be playing like Final Fantasy V. Way more complex, way more interesting, way more difficult. This is a children's RPG, and that's fine for children. I'm sure if I was 12 years old, this would be the bee's fucking knees. I guess I just had hopes that they would have innovated a bit more than what's here. I guess maybe. Why would they? They have a formula that works. They can keep pumping them out, and Bob's your uncle. They can even keep reusing many of the same Pokemon that they've been using for 20 years. Anyways, that's enough talk about Pokemon. I don't know if I'm gonna end up finishing this game. Hard to say if I got my money's worth. We'll see. I don't know why I'm getting my ass handed to me so much. Moving on, there's a lot of scary talk going on about YouTube right now. Basically, being a monetized, career-based YouTuber nowadays, it's basically like walking through a minefield. They're constantly having to dodge issue after issue, and you know, between YouTube itself and between copyright systems and between hacking and between the government, left and right. And if you can make it through and you can dodge all this stuff and make it through the minefield, you can make some good money. But it's scary. And, you know, like Twitch does not have this same problem. But on Twitch, you just have to sort of kill yourself 12 hours a day in order to stay competitive. So, it's a horse of peace. So yeah, the big scare. Well, there was the whole scare, the fake scare, with the termination clause in the terms of service or whatever, where they could, if you're, people thought that if your channel wasn't making them money, they could just destroy it. Which is not what it means for services provided by Google that they can terminate at any time if they're not viable. So that was nonsense. But there's the COPPA thing, which is pretty real. The COPPA law was passed in like 1998 or some shit. Like, long time ago. The Child Online Privacy Protection Act, I think it is. Protect the children on the internet. And it's mostly about data gathering, which a lot of people don't realize. They're like, this YouTube's so stupid. They have YouTube for kids. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, why don't parents worry about, you know, why can't parents be concerned about what their children are doing on the internet? And it's like, because parents don't fucking know. Like, these companies, data is insanely huge. It's an insanely huge business that is just flooding through the cracks. And YouTube tried to circumvent all this bullshit for many years. Basically by ignoring it and just doing what they've been doing. And the whole reason that this is now an issue on YouTube is because they were finally bought, I guess. The FTC came in and was like, hey, there's these laws. You should follow the laws. And so YouTube got fined $170 million. Or that was the settlement they reached, I guess. And so now the FTC's onto their bullshit. And I guess all this new stuff must have been part of the settlement. So now YouTube has to crack down. Well, they're being forced to crack down. And so, basically, from now on, every video on YouTube is either marked for kids or not for kids. And if it's for kids, they cannot run any sort of data gathering or whatever on it. Meaning, in effect, for us, I mean, we don't care about the data gathering, but what it means is they cannot run personalized ads on it. They cannot run advertisements that have been curated to appeal to the person watching the content. This means that before, if a child is watching a YouTube video, they could be served ads designed to market towards children. Now, yeah, I don't know. It's the question that I have, I guess, is what's going to happen to all the children's advertising? I assume that all the children's advertising is just, I don't know. Because it's not like, I mean, if you're watching Nickelodeon, or I don't even know if that channel exists anymore, but if you're watching that, you're getting pumped full of ads designed for children. So I assume all these ads on the internet designed for children are going to be on the content marked for kids, which I would assume is a pretty large market. But they're saying personalized ads account for like 50% of your revenue. So I don't know exactly how it works if you're all children content. I'm curious how much money you're gonna lose. For us, non-children ad stuff, you know, like me, for SCP stuff, I mean, let's be real, a lot of kids are watching my SCP videos. Kids being like 13 years old. 13, 14, whatever. I, of course, benefit from personalized ads being delivered to these kids, infecting their minds. I make money off this. So for me, I don't want to lose personalized ads because I agree that's probably a big portion of my money. You know, there are advertising companies that are just like, here, throw these ads wherever you want. I don't give a shit. But then there's the ad companies that are like, no, I want this in front of these eyeballs, these impressionable young eyeballs. Presumably, that's more expensive. So, for me, of course, for both my channels, I mean, for this channel, I guess I could just mark it all as for kids, just to avoid any problems. Although I don't know, you know, there's the whole issue with the fine. I mean, that's really what a lot of people are scared about, is the fine. If you mark a video as one thing, and they find some, you know, FTC G-man finds out that it's mislabeled, you can be fined $42,000. Now, whether or not that fine will ever actually come into play, aside from the most egregious cases, hard to say. Like, if some Elsa Spider-Man bullshit starts saying all their stuff is not for kids, I feel like that's more egregious than, like, a Let's Play saying that it's not for kids. The real problem is it's such a gray area in so many ways. Because the question really is intent. Do I, as a content creator, intend when I am putting this content together for it to be primarily designed for children? Now, obviously, for the Exploring series, none of my videos are intended for children. I would say they're intended for, like, college students. But, and I think probably for a lot of my videos, like, you know, my videos on Norse mythology, 14-year-old kids, by and large, are not watching. 10-year-old kids are not watching. It's a more adult topic. But then you get into, again, the gray area, and you have, like, my Cthulhu Mythos in Teletubbies video. I did not intend at all for that to be designed for children. But the concern is, I guess, somebody will see it and say, like, oh, you got Teletubbies content all up in this shit? What the fuck? $42,000. I don't know. It's hard to say. Now, obviously, for that video specifically, I don't care if they take away the personalized ads. Because I'm not making any money on that video anyway. It was all taken by the Teletubbies Corporation. The Teletubbies Fat Cats. But there are some fringe cases, and I'm sure across YouTube there's going to be thousands upon tens of hundreds of thousands of fringe cases. It's really pretty muddy, and apparently the FTC is taking comments about the situation until December 9th. Now, I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know what they intend to do. I don't know if they intend to give some leniency to YouTube in general, or... I mean, by and large, the people that should be punished for anything is YouTube. No person uploading videos to YouTube should be fined $42,000. Let's get fucking real. Because no person uploading videos to YouTube is collecting data. No one. That's YouTube collecting data. So that's really the bullshit thing. Is that YouTube, they paid their little fine. I'm sure they made far more than $170 million off all their data collection on kids. They paid their little fine. They have to enact this bullshit. Okay. But now, after that, what consequences will they ever suffer? That's what I'd like to know. So, I'm not overly concerned about it. I marked, again, like I said, I marked my whole channel as not for kids. 'Cause, again, intent-wise, that's what I believe. I have not made a video for kids. Not that I can think of, because why would I? I mean, yeah, again, like I said, I benefit from kids watching my videos. I'm sure that's a big chunk of my viewer base now for the SCP stuff. But again, if you're just asking me if it's made for kids, the answer is no, by and large. So that's going on. Then there's all this issues now with hacking. This is apparently a new thing that's going around. I haven't really heard about it much in the past, but now I'm hearing it all over the place about channels being hacked by outsiders, and their whole channels get like deleted and like basically just stealing the channel for their own purposes. Whether through just pure malice or more likely just to steal subscribers, this is never just a good gambling. But I guess most of this comes from, I heard about it from like people agreeing and signing up with like really shady sponsors and then somehow they click on some links. I mean, it all comes down to clicking on shady links. It's always what hacking is. For the most part, you click on some shady link, they get your YouTube info, and it's a done deal. Now, I guess a few of these channels are in talks with YouTube about getting it back, and I mean, YouTube should have all this on lockdown and be able to just restore it no problem and blah blah blah. I mean, it's like, because it should be pretty easy to settle. It's like, well, I don't know. Did you really get hacked, or did you just delete all your videos, rename your channel, and now want to be switched back? I think it's pretty clear cut. But yeah, you know, it's a tale as old as the internet about keeping an eye out on what you're doing, where you're sending information, and not to victim blame or anything like that. Obviously, it's pretty shitty, but like I said, it's an age-old problem. And then there's specifically to the YouTube community, there's this problem with the Russian man, Andrei Duksin. Or Duskin, I don't know, however it's pronounced. So this guy has been fucking around with the SCP world for some time now. Some months ago, he trademarked SCP in Russia, and it stirred up some shitstorm. But they were like, you know, the Russian trademark, they'll sort this out, blah blah blah. Well, apparently they didn't sort it out, and now he is using his legitimate trademark in Russia to take over the Russian branch, because like on Russia's primary social media website, there was an official Russian social media group, and he went to them and was like, hey, I own the trademark for this. This is my group now. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure enough. I mean, it's not their fault. In Russia right now, it's a legitimate trademark. The problem is it shouldn't be. So now, of course, there has to be like an official legal battle. As the sort of SCP administrators, you know, no one owns SCP. They're just sort of going to court on behalf of the Creative Commons license related to the. I don't know this specific. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know much about this. All I know is SCP good, Russian man bad. That's the long and short of it. So they started a legal fund to sort of fund our side of the legal battle. And I'm in the the SCP sort of administration collaboration Discord. So I've been watching along with all of it. They launched the legal fund the other day, like yesterday. It's already up pretty high. I don't remember the last number. It's like definitely over 30,000, maybe 36,000 or something like that. It's pretty high. It's pretty close to 50,000 goal after a day. SCP community really coming together. I donated $100. Primarily because that's what the Bolgan donated, so I figured I should match him. It's hard, you know, how do you measure how much you should donate to that? I don't know. So I let him go first, and then I followed. And some people were saying, oh, you know, you should make a video about it. A bunch of SCP content creators on YouTube are making videos. You know, Volgan made a video, SCP Illustrated, Sumerian, Sherm has been making videos, and all this stuff. It's like, I'm fine sort of believing in the cause. I'll retweet it. I'll probably pin a comment about it on tomorrow's video. And I donated, but actually putting out a video about it, it's just I know it seems like such a clear-cut case. This is the right side, you should stand behind it, be on the right side, and all this stuff. But it's like there's so many causes to champion in the world. And it's just, I don't want my channel to be a soapbox in any way for sort of current events or politics, you know, any of that. It's just, I put out lore videos. That's it. That's what's on the channel. And so I know in this case, it's very clear cut. But I don't want to fall into that in any way. I don't want people to... I mean, I'm conflicted about it, sure, but in the end, I just think it's clear, it's just easy to... The channel is a lore video channel, end of story. My other, you know, means of discussing and Twitter and blah, 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 fine, but... I mean, that's why they call people influencers and stuff, because it's so easy for someone with so many followers to become just a soapbox, and I just want to steer clear of it. Yeah. Can I tell you what I've talked about so far? Mostly just like YouTube issues and Kappa and all that stuff. Oh, I talked a lot about Pokemon. Those are the two topics. I should move on. I mean, if it came down to it and, like, they were not meeting their legal fund, people were just starting to forget about it, and it was sort of a dire situation, then I might reconsider putting out a video and being like, hey guys, this is serious. Gotta talk about, gotta get this done. But for now, I just think we can't. I mean, and Lord Bung didn't put out a video. He's got way more subscribers than I do. So that's that. Anyways, this week on the Exploring series, I put out a video on the Horizon Initiative, right? That's what it was? Pretty sure. Pretty sure it was the Horizon Initiative. Not an overwhelming response as far as views, but part of that is probably due to the thumbnail. You know, when I just use the basic Sunny Clockwork art, usually does not attract too many views. But that was a pretty tricky video for art in general. I wasn't quite sure what to do. And I didn't want to just put a video of, like, a thumbnail of, like, some D&D paladin. I didn't want to really misrepresent what the video was about, so I had to go pretty basic. Then this week I worked on a video on SCP-3512, The More You Know, which is another fifth-this book. Another gross fifth-this book. It's about pickup artists. So it's about just gross stuff being done to innocent women. That's what it's about. So Yeah, very pleasant. Then, well, okay. D&D officially won the poll. The D&D is the next side series I'm covering. Means I'm going to start with a video covering the history of Dungeons and Dragons, which is a fairly interesting little tale. But the problem is, I was originally going to work on that this weekend and release it this week. Problem is, this week happens to be the week that I'm heading up to a cabin with a bunch of friends for a gaming weekend. This is our annual cabin trip. I'm leaving Thursday afternoon at like 2 for that. So I have to squeeze in the next SCP video between now and like Wednesday night. I'm getting 2 less days basically to work on this. And so it's like, okay, I could squeeze 2 videos. I could like rush through 2 videos by the time Wednesday comes around. Or I could just focus and work on 1 video and make it as good as normal. In the end, I decided that was a better idea than trying to rush to it. So, unfortunately, the history of D&D video, I did start it a little bit, but it's going to have to wait. So, the video then that I'm working on this week is on dog SCP. All the different SCPs involving dogs. I also can do a cat SCP video down the line, but for some reason I jumped to dogs first, surprisingly. I think I'm just familiar with more dog SCP. So that's that. As for Mangg's LPs, we started Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which has been pretty cool so far. And we continued with Outer Worlds and Disco Elysium. Outer Worlds has, I believe, 1 more video. And then we're done. Disco Elysium, who knows? But for now, it's just going to be Disco Elysium and Star Wars. And from the looks of it, there's not really any big releases until the end of the year. So I think we're safe as far as big LPs to do. As for the gaming weekend, planning to do plenty of board games, including Twilight Imperium 4. Hoping to get a game of that in. Possibly a one-shot of some RPG. I'm thinking of doing some Dungeon Crawl Classics module. Actually, I'm thinking maybe Deep Carbon Observatory, which is for Lamentations of the Flame Princess, but I could just use DCC, and that could be pretty interesting, because I don't know if we're going to actually do any of the D&D campaign at the cabin. We'd be down a couple people. I don't know the specifics of that. Also, I'm planning to bring computer, because they have a projector there at this cabin, a nice screen and like a little theater room. And I'm planning to do maybe do some arcade stuff, some 4-player stuff, all that kind of stuff. Because my movie theater room in my basement, which I have been spending a lot of time getting set up and finished and done, it's very close to being finished. I'm basically waiting on one more little piece of furniture from Wayfair. They said they delivered it. The box is not here. I don't know where. I'm waiting until tomorrow to confirm. And then after that, pretty soon after that, but I couldn't heal. It had no effect. What the fuck? A potion? What the fuck? This is the first battle I've lost in this game, by the way. I blame my conversation of just not paying attention. But I've had, you know, I got some really nice carpet put in. I got the projector all set up. Everything's set up. Got some seats down there. So I've been using it myself all week. And like last weekend, I watched all 3 John Wick movies in a row down there. That was pretty sweet. I watched both episodes of The Mandalorian down there. That's pretty sweet. I'm planning to do a marathon of all the Star Wars. Not a marathon, but I'm planning to watch all the Star Wars movies before the new one comes out. But mainly I've been setting up like my emulation station down there. Originally I was going to use just a Raspberry Pi, because I have one with a bunch of emulators and stuff loaded up onto it. But I was like, yeah, you know, I want something designed for multiplayer. I want something where I can have a few buddies over and we can all just load up like Nightfire on GameCube and just play. It's like the Raspberry Pi can't really cut it. Can't really cut it. I need something more powerful, and so I was like, I could look into just building a new HTPC, or what can I do? And then I realized, well, I have my old computer, which is pretty beefy. You know, it's got a 1080 Ti in there and stuff like that. It's a pretty beefy machine. And I had given it to my dad to set up like his own computer desk and everything. I gave it to him back in January, and he never touched it. And he was always like, oh, I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it. And it's just like, I don't want to be an Indian giver. I gave it to him. So I talked about it with him, and he was like, he wants a new computer and a desk, but he definitely does not need a beefy one. He does not need a 1080 Ti or anything like that, because all he really plays is like Hearthstone. He just wants something that's like a little zippier. So I'm like, okay, I can just build him a new computer with like an APU, you know, like some integrated graphics, a Ryzen 3 or something, and maybe get him like some NVMe storage, and just make it as snappy as possible while not being a gaming powerhouse. And he would probably be pretty happy. And that allows me to keep a pretty beefy computer and use it as just a GameCube emulation box. Either way, I guess. It's a horse apiece. But it also lets me keep that hooked up down in the movie room, and I can load up some modern PC games on it and not fret about it. So I've been spending most of the week just sort of getting that set up properly. And getting it with all the emulators and ROMs I want. And getting it so it looks good. So I've been using RetroArch as the base. That's running pretty much everything as far as the ROM. RetroArch is not user friendly, really. I mean, as far as like, rather than just downloading like a basic emulator and loading up some ROMs, RetroArch definitely requires more fiddling. But once you understand how it works and can get it all to work, I think it's the best way to go. I think most people nowadays are developing cores and stuff for RetroArch rather than standalone emulator. So that's running everything, but then I wanted a front end that I could just, when I boot up my computer, it loads up the front end, it looks good, it sounds good, shows all the games off with screenshots, cover art, fan art, all that good stuff. And so I guess the premier one at this point in time on Windows is Launchbox. Someone recently released a version of Launchbox, an add-on or whatever, called Big Box, which is exactly what you want as a proper front end. You can use a controller to control through it. It shows off everything. It looks really good with different themes. It's good. It took me some time to sort it all out, download all this like screenshots and cover art and game media, get everything sorted out, get the right theme. I went through a bunch of different themes before settling on one that looked really good. But now everything is pretty much perfect, exactly as I would like. I don't have like, I'm not one of those people who's like, I have to have every NES game ever made. You know, it's just like, no, I want like the 100 best NES games. And luckily there are other people like that, and so they've compiled ROM packages where you can just get the best games. So that's pretty much mostly what I went with. With like GameCube stuff hand selected and PlayStation stuff hand selected. And then for the arcade, I mean, there's thousands of arcade games that you could just load up, but it's like, what's the point? You're never gonna play through all these games. You're never gonna sorting through them and looking through them all just to find something you like is just whatever. I mean, you're just gonna load up Turtles in Time anyways, so whatever. Or maybe that's just me, but I was like, I don't want thousands. I fortunately found a pack called the All Killer No Filler pack, which I think is like 390 games. And I was like, okay, that's a reasonable number. And so most of the week, I've sort of just been going through the arcade games sort of one by one and just like booting them up, seeing if they work. That's the first thing. And then like just putting in one coin and then just playing with one coin until I can't play anymore on one coin. And so it's been interesting to just see all these games from like the 90s and late 80s and stuff like that, and seeing all the different sort of some of them obviously are very similar to like Super Nintendo games or whatever. They were very quickly ported. Some of them are very just unique to arcades, and it's a different game design philosophy a little bit when you're thinking about, okay, someone is going to be feeding coins into this game. The goal is to feed a bunch of coins into this game. And in some ways, that definitely like hurts the game design. Like Turtles in Time. In many ways, I think the arcade version of Turtles in Time is way better than the Super Nintendo version. Like graphically, sound-wise, animation-wise, voice, like there's a lot of improvements over the SNES version. They definitely had to strip stuff down. But I had my brother and his wife over the other night, and we were playing some Turtles in Time together. And you get to these boss battles, and it's just absurd, like how long it takes with 3 people just wailing on these bosses. And the bosses get all these free hits in, and that are just unavoidable, and you will die many times. And in an arcade, you'd have to just keep pumping quarters into this in order to get through it. Whereas I think the SNES version was far more lenient. in that aspect. Not ridiculously. I mean, beat 'em ups in general have that problem. But it was sort of absurd how much it would cost to beat that game in an arcade. Unless you were like just a ridiculous expert. And also, it makes me wonder, like, how much time do these designers spend on like later levels, knowing that only like a few % of players are ever going to reach that point? Because that was part of the thing of putting in one coin and seeing like how much playtime do you get, an average person get, off of one coin. Some games are super generous. You can play for like 15 minutes off one quarter. Other games, I managed to play for like 30 seconds before just getting wiped out. And obviously, I have a lot of experience with video games. I'm not shit. Most of the time. So it was interesting, like, an average person booting up this game, putting a quarter in, plays for 30 seconds. Because, one-hit kills are the norm. Also, way too many games are either vertical or horizontal shooters, or beat 'em ups, or fighting games. Those are like the big three of the arcade. Which I guess makes sense. Those are pretty easy. The shoot 'em up thing, that's like, I don't know why that's so indicative of the arcade. Like, what about an arcade just appeals and caters to this shoot 'em up thing? It must be Japan. Because, here in America, when I went to an arcade or whatever back in the day, or at a Chuck E. Cheese, there weren't many shoot 'em ups. There was a lot more like gimmicky games, and beat 'em ups were pretty common, and fighting games. And that was it. Shoot 'em ups, we didn't get too many. So I've been skipping most of like the shoot 'em ups. That genre has just never appealed to me. Probably because, like I said, we didn't have it as a kid. We had it on like NES, but I was just never good, so I didn't care. But the one game that I stumbled onto and I really enjoy, I think it's like my favorite arcade game, possibly. It's called Volfi. It's sort of a spiritual successor to another game called Kix, Qix. And I have Kix as well. I played that. Not nearly as good as Volfi. Volfi is the fucking jam. If you want to find a MAME emulator and some ROMs, pick up Volfi. Volfied. I don't know why it's called that, but it is. And it's this game where you God, I don't even know how I could explain it. I almost have to like load it up. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna load it. I should have it. Yeah, I have it on this computer. Let me just I'm gonna load it up so I can talk about it. I mean, I should be talking about our D&D session, but now I need to show up Volfied. Oh, I don't have a controller here. Hopefully I can use my keyboard. So just give me a second. No, it's not really wanting to work. Hold on. Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, I don't know why it's cropped like that. I'll make it a little bigger for us. Well, you get the idea. Okay, now I just have to figure out how to like put in coins and stuff. Good luck, right? Oh, I got it. Okay, I got it. Okay, that's not working. All right. I can just. This is such a stupid tangent, but I want to show off Bullfight. I want to show it off, damn it. Okay. Oh, why is it so stretched? Whatever, you get the idea. No, why is it doing that? Okay, there we go. There we go. Excellent. All right. So you control this little ship around the corner, or around the edges here, and there's all these little monsters just floating around semi-randomly in the middle. I was really confused by this game at first. I almost gave up on it, but I got it figured. And the goal of the game, is to make the map smaller by making boxes. So if you, no, not that button. I'm gonna have to figure out which button. There we go. Right. So you press a button and you head out from one of the edges and you start creating this like outline. If you connect that to another edge, another part of the green line, it will close in and it will create this new little box. And so if you keep going, eventually you'll fill in large chunks of the map and the enemies will have very little room to maneuver around. If an enemy touches the line while you're making it, well, there's really no way to explain other than showing. So I'll just head out. There you go. See, they touched it. And from the moment they touched it, this like red explosion started zooming towards me. So it doesn't kill you instantly, which I think is what happened with kicks. But you have a little bit of time to finish the line and stop it. And then you'll be fine. You'll be safe. So you have a little bit of time there. The actual goal of each level is to box in the damn it. I'm gonna die because of my shield, my timer running out. But the boxes, I had thought they always like were created based on like, I don't even know how to explain what I'm trying to explain. The goal of the game is to box in the large creature. That's basically it. If you box in the large creature so that he has 20% or less of the map to move around in, you win the round. There's really, the only way I'll be able to really explain is to play the level out. Oh, my shields ran out. Interesting. Oh, now it's all become a red line. I don't know how. I mean, I'm going to end up dying. Oh, that gave me some shield. I've never had the shield run out. So these gray boxes on the map contain power-ups. So if you box those in, you get little power-ups. The P is the worst one. That just pauses your shield for a little while. Also, if you box in... Oh, fucker. If you box in an enemy, they will die. Obviously. So I'll just try and play through the level. There is music. Well, no. Music would be going a little far. There's basically like this constant like ringing noise in the background. So be glad you can't hear it because it's really annoying. So the P pauses your shields for a moment so you don't die as quickly. See if I can't get anything. Okay, time stop. That is the best one. That pauses all the enemies. So there you go. So you can just quickly do something like that. And you can see, like, the boxes form around the large monster. So that's what you're trying to do. So since I had boxed in 84% of the map, I finished the level. All you need is 80% or more. And you get more points the more you box in. But you have to do it in, like, one go. Because as soon as you get 80%, it's going to end the level. So then the game ramps up in difficulty quite a bit. I've only beaten this level twice. Because the monsters start moving much faster and more sporadically. The spikes that this guy is shooting out can't hurt you when you're on the edge. It only hurts your line if you're making a line. But it's something to... And he moves fast and he's big and it's annoying and blah, blah. So most of the time, I'm basically banking on trying to get a good power-up. The time stop is a level-ending power-up. But if you get the speed power-up, it's really good as well. For whatever reason, it's just... Fuck. It's just really addictive. Oh, we got time stop. I don't have nearly enough time to do anything of what I want. Okay, so we got speed and we killed one guy and we shut off a decent part of the map. Could have been better. I panicked. So speed lasts a long time, but if you die, it goes away. But it makes you move so much faster. So now it gets pretty tricky. Because we just have less room to maneuver around. Since they're constantly bopping around. So if you don't care about points, you can just slowly sort of seal off different sections. Until you get to 80%. And then you'll win the level. It's not a very cool way to win, but it works. Oh, I mean, there is the shield problem. So eventually I'm going to get fucked. We're up to 64. Fuck. And my speed ran out, so now it's tricky. And these power-ups appear and disappear, so if you box it in when it's disappeared, you don't get anything. My shields are going to run out before I hit 80%. There's just so little room to maneuver. Oof. Nah, that fucked up. Alright. You get the idea, I think. It's really addictive. Like I said, I spent more time with this than any other arcade game. It's really fun. But, yeah, so I'm planning on bringing that PC along to the cabin. Some controllers, play some arcade games, some N64 games, some GameCube games. Should be pretty fun. I also got a couple PC games that are multiplayer. I bought one of, like, the Jackbox party packs or whatever. And I bought this game called Crawl, which came out, like, a year ago or something. Really interesting game. Played it with my brother and his wife. Basically, one player is trying to go through a dungeon, and it's like a isometric action sort of pixel action game where you're killing monsters and trying to get to the end boss so you can complete the dungeon. And you pick up new equipment, and it's sort of a roguelike. That's all pretty traditional. But the other players control the monsters, and they get to, like, upgrade monsters, and they can control traps and, like, different things around every room, and they're trying to kill the hero. And whenever one of the monster players kills the hero player, they become the hero. And then the guy that was the hero becomes a monster. And it keeps going back and forth of everyone trying to kill each other and the person playing the hero trying to just get through the dungeon to get to the boss, because the first person to kill the boss wins. Super fascinating concept. It was really fun. Confusing at first. Not everything was really laid out, and we didn't read the rules, so that's part of the problem. But we had fun with it. And you unlock new monster types and all this sort of interesting stuff. And yeah, it was just really cool couch co-op PC game with cool art style and all that stuff. So yeah. Anyways, now that we're over an hour, I guess I could talk about D&D, but it actually was not that crazy of a session. There isn't much to say. We started out in this town. We all know each other. We've been living in this town for like a year or so, and some dark tidings are coming in from the west, Zuknul and blah blah blah. You know, there's some standard stuff like that. But also the water supply to the town has just been cut off for some reason. The river has stopped flowing, and we were sent to go investigate the river. And we found that the river had been diverted using tools to fall down into this chasm. This big waterfall was created. And I poked down into the chasm using some scion nonsense. And we found a bunch of kobolds with water elementals. And they were like doing some religious shit down there. And it's like, okay, well, we can't have this. So we basically dammed up the river temporarily so that the water stopped. So they all came out of the caverns. Far more than we thought. We had this huge battle that was like 25 combatants or something like that. That took up most of the session. But we won pretty easily. No one was really that hurt. And I got this rod that can control water elementals. And we made it to level 2. That's basically it. Not much happened. We didn't even go into the tunnels because why would we? But yeah, it was just sort of an introductory session to get us back into 4th edition. And combat takes a while in 4E, no doubt about it. That's usually why I try to avoid it. But it was what it was. So yeah, we should be picking that back up tomorrow. All right, that's it. That's all there is to say. So check out Volfied. It's awesome. Check out SCP-3512 tomorrow. Check out more Jedi Fallen Order, Disco Elysium, and the final video of The Outer Worlds. My name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. I'll see you fine folks next week.